Yes, so like again, still thinking about that Shanda, one of like there's that like that person might be more often Shanda, but like might be more like this event code who like first guy using that event code technique code like in event code might have been able to like take down uh not only take down that satellite Shanda of like the fun, but also might have been quickly able to like this guy perfectly the guy has like the one guy, but like Shaka might have been what happens to the interaction. So definitely at present like the Shaka that's like communicating with like dragon might definitely be connected with the energy of that Shaka might be available with the payment connected. So that's what like how UN code might have made it and integrated into Texas Island might have been solely through like the help of that trauma that Liam was the point that trauma even becoming you know for like trauma to like because like even from like the step of like dragon and if the revolutionary might have said and that's like your ultimate goal to like bring down the prince dragon like uh, that they might have seen like you know from them to like achieve their ultimate goal of that it may be the like bring down that is the dragon definitely absolutely the matter of that like to the person like maybe dragon as well as like the revolutionary army members might be totally unaware of that hierarchy about like to consider like of that about like elders and about things, especially on the information. So definitely I'm looking for that for them that their ultimate goal would be that they might be thinking that like bring down the dragons might put an end to that the events of all sorts of things of happening in electrodes by like the world government in like the animal like monkey and those things might be around the like fragment or the story on image the story but still as to that person to like achieve that goal like not to bring down the system like and first they might so they have to like bring down like the world government figure out a way to like to bring down like the world government might be along the lines like bracket might be doing the minimum trend so the them like in might not actually be Uma making that absolute sacrifice and by not trying to like by consciously not trying to like escape it. So that way Uma might have allowed well to experience on you know complete with that with soldier of that is moving that absolute sacrifice so that Uma would be able to like secretly reveal all the closest information with respect to that where comes to like excellent things like where comes that the result of like where going to be all part of like the world government for the technical itself and everything. So definitely Thomas plan might have been through that stealthy that way by uh, becoming like the warlord and try going through that the experience of the whole thing. I really think that will not so much to be able to expect that way. Indeed, all the crucial information comes to prove that the world government and like for to that the revolutionary army you know, during that time period. Might be another instance Puma might have planned and might have become that up to that case. To which like even though Dragon and like the others might have been um, totally initially against like Ambush Point, like Dragon alone might have eventually seen that how badly, how passionate Puma was to like bring down the sense that Dragon can be released. And that might be that passionate desire to bring down the sense of Dragon for like Puma might have been the result of that. What much synergistic things that the Dragon might have in like the Puma might have come to like the soft kingdom that when like Puma was you know the kingdom with the Lehman. So you see that desperation and passion in Lactoma is like a injury. Dragon might have taken it to that first the plan of Lactoma and that way that during might have been White Soma was like in that first of that was like a warlord and was going to like the experience of where that Lactoma might have even those experience might have been taking place at like Exit Island might have been like the days so that it might have been even since way back then that Kuma might have revealed that location, exact location coordinator of like Exit Island to Dragon and like the original Ram University. So like that way, like I'm just bring a person like it might be definitely event that's like at person like might have easily been able to like make it to like Exit Island, but like through the help of like that revolutionary army member who has like power of the bird like uh, it might be through the help of that revolutionary army member like him sharing in while taking flight like carrying went to Exit Island and he might have played away in left sector either. Due to that, most likely that by now through that everything that Puma might have information about like Exeter Island that Puma might have in like what officers might have revealed to like Dragon and others like the security at like Exeter Island might be such extreme futuristic levels of that superior technology. Levels of like security that like definitely that and from like Dragon board of like and from that upper land the bird revolutionary army member might have got to then go to the Canada Island, like straight away he might have that the island might have been recognized. So like from that point on, it might have been even though nonsense from with land there, numbers goal might be just along a sector revolutionary army certain goal might be to like okay through that disguise and that to get even so like take down on like the satellites of like weapons so that are just and basically for like event goals to so we describe as like one of like satellites and that way for like event goals to be able to actually figure out like the exact location of like the actual space, the actual location within like Island where like the weapon is in and basically that therefore like event goes to it so that it's tries to be able to like make it to like surgeon weapon and basically for then goes to like interrogate and get out the crucial information and for like the person where of like Sabo. Might be along the lines of like the ultimate goal of the terrorism might be a certain discussion with the terrain. So definitely I'm looking that since I think that while like needed like robot I think like sharp robot has basically was so much pressure and like ran into like the dark robot of like Lilith in like the sea flags. At that point, I think that Lilith was like communicating with like the satellite Shaka of like the like at that point it might have been like the actual Shaka that might have been communicating with like Lilith the naval mission. It might have been soon after that communication that like the incident might have only or might have taken off or like or forward and it put like the original Shaka into like a smart kind of state. And then so at that point, it might have been put on the website of that subject data might have been what might have happened certainly my friend. So that might be the reason for like event of at present event that during like the communication with that wagon event is even feeling so uneasy about like just like present situation that like event so might like not make it back along such lines like event so feeling the person might be solely reflective and so different of being unaware of like the presence of like the straw hat group had like at an island. Due to all these reasons, according to my vegetarian, might be replicate between us brand. And then still stick to my talking with earlier theory and prediction that like the giant robot as well as like the giant dragon that fighting off at like against each other at like Island might be definitely both hologram as well as like robot might be like exit the flame environment. So like exactly that when like the holograms will be replaced getting replaced by robots might be definitely all happening based on a specific time event that the satellite at the might be locally aware of the exact timing mistake that advantage they might be like the but like that replacement of like those two giant robot and dragon technology by uh, actual robot might be happening from like the surface from like opening to like happening on the ground in which like there might be a huge underground lab of like vegetables which might be still represent like under like the ground and like the underground where like the giant robot as well as the giant robot version of like dragon might be presented, which might be whenever like during this fight between like the hologram robot and the hologram giant dragon will be ending up with like one of the falling due to the fight. Like at that point, exactly when one of the two falling might be when like from like some perspective, the replacement of like the holograms and like the robots might be happening for both like the giant dragon as well as for both the giant dragon hologram as well as like the giant robot hologram might be like the case and from like the robot to that back to like the hologram as well might be happening through a similar way. Definitely might be reimbursed. So definitely might be reimbursement right now that is most likely the actual lab and base that like welcome at like a head might not be at like the top of like the structure but like some of the different work to most likely in that stealthy underground area beneath that sector island might be where like the actual lab that warehouse might be. Definitely might be different. So definitely I'm looking for like when so in like the case of Startup most likely that has featured like most likely making it to like the very top of like the X structure and certainly at that point like while even so would be totally think that we have finally made it to that at that point is when I'm the different like then goes like plan and everything totally background the flag. At that point, at reaching the very top of the text structure, when I'm the different like most likely for like event goes to even hopefully find out that like the actual weapon of the Senga time was that actually present at like weapons like original space lab, which according to my friend might be and like underground area of like extra island might be like the actual to trick any intruders to be like making it to extra island wanting to like capture or take out like weapons to trick each and every single one of them. Like this might be like the strategical plan kind of way in which like weapon might have even designed extra island. Might be like that like a possibility that I'm looking at. Also, according to my personal theory and prediction, that I'm sitting on to that Shaka at present might be Ivanko in this guide, like since like Ivanko at present doesn't have much scope of like in server, it's like its own survival and unsolved cutting solely due to like the presence of like this prophet through and like Vector Island alone, like I'm referring that Ivanko actually surviving this like current infiltration in like Vector Island eventually is like and even making it back to like the original art is like giving the scenario that I'm just about different and another time. And definitely I'm looking for the scenario where like what is only game due to the help of that the game of product alone that even with the surviving and definitely I'm referring that eventually I'm referring that dragon that while meeting Lucy will be definitely telling would be the first thing that dragon would be telling Lucy and the friend most likely would be a thank you for like saving event is like even just scenario parameters or like and then very cool and definitely my question very interesting right now is for like as person like now me able to like definitely not be able to like bring them back to that attack back against like certain with a substance and inselection because of like them being the selected so that like scenario that I have ran like that way that I'm through focusing and prioritizing on escape it's like the scenario and then succeeding in like escaping and getting away from like based on the different scenario that I'm the role and definitely get like I'm simplifying eventually I'm still giving my friend for like software cannot just be a gene-based system, but like I'm so different eventually for like picture tiger system as well as like Cairo surfing, like basically showing most likely that being present in that where at like Eckert Island is like the scenario which like what you will need to be face to like fight face and fight up against that the scenario that I'm when I eventually I'm so different for like definitely so like so different scenario where like a fight happening between like Jinbe versus like the Fisher Tiger something. It's like there is a scenario where like I'm so different between such an extreme beings to like Jinbe the extreme respect towards like Fisher Tiger like being such an extreme struggle for like Jinbe within the game that brings himself to fight back against like the Fisher Tiger certain. And definitely I'm looking Jinbe would be like overcoming that the situation and we to be really okay or for anticipating like the kind of stuff while I'm definitely putting eventually for like Namian so eventually ending up in like situation where like then have no other option of like doing like escape and like then being forced to like fight us against like the same types of problems like in the scenario that I was point and at that point I'm putting this process so as well like overcoming overcoming that situation and basically fighting and bringing down like the things like the same with scenario that I'm looking at and so definitely my computer interaction right now is that like person like the world government might be probably unaware of like the strong actors present at like extra and might be like active person which is for them to take so the prince of the only weapon alone at like present that might be even aware of it for that was the like weapon at like extra island the very much so definitely my impression for like this for like weapon of like having plans for like the strong and because each of it so since like each of the squad team members have that unique powers and unique skills, like I'm so different that one that person might be having plans to like create that seraphims and seraphims out of that the unique skills and abilities and powers of each of the members of that was correct role. By capturing each of the members, capturing and tracking and executing on each of the members of the role. Might be around the lines of the person's plan of that where some fellows might actually be is definitely my particular and also, the police might have the restriction is for like anything in scenario at like Entire Island where like the bring any in like a situation where like now maybe just to that face off against like a certain of our laws that make that anyone the scenario that I'm and at that point I'm focusing that now me actually being able to that emphasize with like our laws even more. It's definitely my effort and definitely in that battle I'm focusing that now me to be able to or for an indicating that our laws how long certain structural scenario parameters of the brain and mother brain. It is like the police might have the emergence right now is that like where from the micro project might have been where from like experiment to like clone like the already existing like developers to like clone those developers might have been the reason for like the inequity just might this project even begin by starting of by weapons might be like that the situation supplement trend. So definitely bring that the level fruit the micro that like moment of state eight and basically so this across like moment of state to like transform into like the exact look like that of that kind of dragon force might have been like the very first smile fruit that of like there was one that might have ended up becoming a success might be like that the million friends. So like since then I'm whispering that the might have created that in that creating a lot of cloning a lot of leftover food might be by now supposed to live and frame it and that it might be that senior thing developed that weapon might have created like the clone of and might have added as like a feature to and might have made like the substance of like Jinbe heat might have been what might have resulted in like the substance Jinbe at certain of in like about similar to that of like similar thing. So definitely might be the reimbursement. So like definitely like this might be inaccuracy what like where going to like my project might have been definitely to create like an and to create like a clone of like the all the powerful existing great number of the so face stones out of that and that way for like it might have been all it might be all for like enough to like for like enough to that way create like an entire army of like serpents and boxing that powers of like all the powerful great number of like developers of them and definitely I'm also trying that where might be also like person might be experimenting on like making things like something just not human like but some anthropomorphic things they are not human like the leader might be definitely currently at like the working and like the progress of like having each serpent or like being able to like use multiple double cloud using such multiple by having that each certain amount of that contains multiple might be able to like to make them be able to like contain that multiple smile might be along the line like where that person might be in like the serious experimenting of might be like active situations that live and definitely bring that trauma with like the wing of something with like something that like is easy to remember at present are like transporting towards like academic might definitely impact might be like the very first surface of that where which might be at present be able to use like multiple of that development powers might be that using by using that by consuming multiple points such as this might be like that situation that labor parameter and to create such an ultimate surface with like the toughness of like Puma as well might have been like the actual intent behind that one wanting to like experiment on Puma like might be like the adjective just to make my picture ambition because like since like Puma is like so similar tough like enduring that toughness of Puma might have been a crucial factor in like to for like their point to be able to like have a certain amount of effort system to be able to like, handle multiple dose of cloud like that toughness might be a crucial sorry factor to be able to like handle all those like multiple dose of cloud might be like a minimum and this might be also like the reason for like the social relevant which might possibly from weapon point of view weapon might be given to that Doma might read that and check out the date the limit premise so definitely it might have been exactly one like weapon might have completed like the creation of like the Puma like of something with like doing that like I'm referring that the actual Puma might have been like given to like the might have been unneeded anymore and might have been given to like might have been given to like the physical dragon and technology at that point might have been what it might have happened with the Lehman framework. So like based on like the already existing the model of like the already existing like Puma based system and certain stuff like more like Puma like certain might be easily be able to like create the Lehman framework. So definitely at present like weapon actually might have actually no more needs for like the organic coma, and that might be the reason for like Sabo and team like this and through like the past like during like the final recovery finding that coma uh, and at like the with like in like the option of like a sensor dragon that might be like even back then like coma might have been no having like no more need for like weapon might be having absolutely no more need for like coma and I found experiments involving that the requirement of that coma might have been more. Uh, so actual coma might have been all even back then might be like that the belief might be the reimbursement right now. So that according to my secondary impressions, that I'm sitting on to that the recording for like most likely for a long time by now having relied on like stand on like the possibility of like stand for like year like that's totally that feeling that or getting that like the proof from that music and giving it to like you might have only depended on like chant or like to do that through most likely through threatening chant as well as that like might have been said that time might have depended on them both to like bring that with this jumble inputs to that for a long time so definitely that and the player was like might have also given present weapon as well at the same time eventually or like at the same time like might have also present weapon to like figure out a solution to that for like to be able to like get back this is like might be along the lines like maybe might have even threatened that weapon as well might be like that to especially and like the solution that weapon might have came down to might be like the might project might be to create like zones of like for the electricity so that like basically doesn't have to like depend on like strength of like black hair so that like weapon might have planned to like create like a bunch of like person stuff of like person with like the pulsing like the sort of like black hair and basically to create such an army in a Korean basically that way to like black beard power of the Canada so that way to like send out like enough and sort of army of like great number of army of like just of certain targeting within basically that way to like just like black beard and dark to third sort powers like by cloning it using the smite for this like basically that way to like forcefully take away like this like dominant and basically that way to like visit so might be along the lines with that intent might be inaccurately like the weapon might have even started like the smile proof project at like that might be like the accuracy of the execution that leads might have very other. So that basically in short like mitochondria and questions that like mononoscale might be like the very first individual to consume a successful smile trip might be like the very first successful smile trip might have been like that might prove which might have been like the clone of like the developer style of and that might have been like the exact clone might prove that like moment of time might have consumed might have been like that should distribute the human brain. So that definitely my personal numbers right now is that the JinbeSeraphim might be only having that single cell for power from just that of like Xenoblade that also power Halo might be like the only also power that the JinbeSeraphim might be able to use technical difference. The JinbeSeraphim fundamental difference might not be at all able to like handle more than one strong smile through the power might be that the actual expected situations that leads by ignoring it. So definitely not just like within the serpent, but like all the serpents and stuff it like at like so everyone like Exile might be or only be able to like use a single the clone might group so power value might be like that with the claim of prevention that so like I'm still my prevention that like that trauma like uh serpent or like what that like the city government was bringing to like Exile they don't might be like the only uh, uh, might be like only and like the first serpent or like first system to be able to like handle like multiple levels of my food and actually not like the my Muslim. So like definitely my Muslim business for like the light team like attack that like all the great number of like circumstances but can use like the light team like attack similar to that of like Kizaru's like light team like for like might not be in actuality that the total power of Chicago, but like might be only that an artificial like light beam like attack that like weapons might have created, and like that light beam like that might definitely not have that anywhere near to that the level of that the trace intensity of that Chicago's like original light beam like the light beam that might be that the actual intensity will definitely might be very impression right. Also, that the main very important right now is for like the JinbeSeraphim to that right now that after Naomi can basically create labels like the scenario that I've so like that for the concept scenario to be that right now so magically like that an opening happening in that the floor and basically always like within just system so they could be give it just like the other scenario. It's like the scenario like the scenario that I'm looking for. So like at that point like it's at that point just like that opening and then the logic behind like the behind them expecting to not that so that way like Sanjay and all of them that basically deciding to basically somehow figure out a way within that building to that to go to the lower floors and basically that way for them to like save an army and basically as like and that might be exactly what like weapon might be the actual option weapon might be not and it might be a trap set by weapon to that slowly one by one like bit of bit reduce like the point of like for that through. Well, it's like same scenario that I've done. So like that way like Sanjay and crew like basically and they will be exploring like them finding the stairs and like one of like the rooms and basically then taking the stairs and the very next room in which that they will be ending up in that and putting like a completely different certain showing up. So it's looking for to be maybe like an Arlem certain or like maybe some other certain like showing up or like the Guaranto certain or like the King certain. I'm going to bring like one of these certain that showing up and basically um, and basically at that point like another like at that point that person attacking the storage room and basically like during that point like a movement like that person as well like basically escaping while capturing another thing one of the like the remaining storage room as well and like the changes like the scenario that I'm looking at. So like once again like this scenario repeating with like storage room once again desperately trying to like find a way out and basically find a way downstairs and basically as they will be like going downstairs like to more and more doors, like more and more new servants like showing up, and that way like the kind of like the uh those group of like storage group team in which like so and so you have in like you're reducing the Friday until like eventually all of them like getting captured or like until like eventually it being finally alone that wouldn't be getting captured in that thing. Okay, so like the scenario that I'm about and like that way like while Sanji would be exploring all by himself like instead of like a certain like most likely Sanji ending up into like a trap zone where like the doors closing and basically Sanji getting contained within that zone and being unable to like escape or even destroy that zone and make force escape. This is like the scenario that I'm about to. Okay, so like what made my question very interesting right now is that like weapons might right now might have created like multiple custom sniper even though about the number might be based on that powers or that multiple shows so it's like still it might be power that doesn't power that doesn't even exist might be like such custom might be like containing powers of like fruits that doesn't exist such micro like multiple of them that weapon might have created by now is definitely monster and one of those fruits might be like the one of such as might be like the percent powers of like gene based definitely correction while the powers of like percent powers of like gene based might be might be for like gene based to like manipulate gene based like body and shape it into what might be like that's it exactly like how Dave as well as like Karibu having that powers to that shift it into like mud as well as like fire, like change the properties of their body into element of like fire as well as like element of mud, like different and like based on these powers like different that weapons might have created that a smile, a custom made smile so based on these powers while the power of like the stuff in my sport might be a large shift into what might be like the case, change the property of the body to what might be like the case, but you know, the brain, it might be that might so that like the stuff in Jinbe might have weapon might have given to like the stuff of Jinbe. which might be what might be making it possible for like Jinbe to swim through the floor. Definitely not correct. My difference is for like unlike in like synoptic case, like it might not in like the gender certain state, like it might not at all be the floor, the property of like the floor that like the substance in being might be changed, but like it might be in based on property, physical property that might be taken into like the property of what might be like anything that might be actually happening, which definitely the positive that I'm bringing and also referencing. So definitely the and definitely I'm referring like the fire that like that Jinbe have might definitely not all be like the Captain Jinbe might not all have firepower like that of like Ace or like that of like King, but like it might be just like any mission created fire alone that a mechanical a piece of mechanical certain within like a certain mechanical ignition based fire alone that like the certain they might be having where one might have added that piece of solely with the intent to like that way to take advantage of like such of like the water shape shifting powers to like create water vapors to that way create like water vapor and that way to turn the water vapor into that water and that way to like create that absolute shield against that any incoming attack might be along the lines that of like that way of like the situation comes to like in this like the something in this power might be like might be very untouchable by the so like fundamental change might have been solely into that the sort of Indian game of like race of wind, that water wave, that shape shifting, smile fruit powers that like with the sort of Indian way using platform and like itself like basically creating like water vapor and it being like being able to like basically that collect like the water vapor and like basically uh, turn that into convert that into like a wall of field against like a rolling attack and even that whispering that might be given as like an order by not likely weapon to like the subsequent way. It might be definitely according to that weapon, the actual person weapons for us that like the subsequent Jinbe at person might be fighting off against like this might be that creates the limit for ambition. So definitely that weapons plan that person might be to totally crush like the confidence of the product group and bring down their moral and to that totally that quickly that way defeat might be along the intent of that weapon might be and this might be the reason for that even though it might be that Robin's attack might have been easily avoidable and dodgeable by for like the substance in there by shape shifting into once again shape shifting into its like one form and like swimming through the floor like still solely to like display like the water from collecting sheer powers to like the store through and that way to give them that absolute scare and destroy the confidence and destroy the morale might be like the sovereign for like weapons like the game touch and all so that such things in there might be like that the situation that they don't threaten. Okay, so like definitely my question very much right now is definitely for that self and great for that I needed to give way too many orders to that within the serpents at one and if you that causing like the Jinbe serpent to not be able to like process all the multiple great number of orders simultaneously at the same time and that way like work that Jinbe serpent that solely due to that and that way like the Jinbe serpent that like not being able to like attack for like a moment and leave the entire of that so had three members like in that room surrounding in the surrounding like at that point like taking that moment like taking absolute advantage of that moment to like take out and destroy like within the suffering like the scenario that I'm here. So like a something like sitting on to that which might be the lead event to that might have that defeated and might have either taken out or like might have put like Shaka into like an input kind of state might be like the situation with like that definitely not so and it might be a something like that event of that like might be kind of like this type of stuff and about this definitely and that is better fun as well as like the six athletic as well as the experiment five athletic forms of way from might have easily found out about might be like taxes of the middle but like I'm different like most likely either square from himself or like it might have been your that six athletic form of that uh, which I'm totally trying to use that much again extremely realistic. The most realistic among like the fifth satellite in forms of network might be like the six. satellite form. York might be like the expecting of and I'm going to bring that York might have given like or to like the remaining five satellite form of that weapon to like only pretend as the flag basically to like not do anything about like if the saga getting taken out that basically that York will take care of it might be along the lines like York might have given the order and like York might be like the more superior in terms of like hierarchy and position uh, when it comes to like all the satellite form that weapon might be like against the minimum like the remaining four satellite forms might have that agrees to that the order of that job might have been what might have happened and definitely uh, at present like it might be job that might be I'm talking job might be like not like a person that like the very top of like the structure of that sector island might be like it is definitely limited. So like job might want to have that to totally correct that to give that more scope to like and so under like the stairs of like Shaka. This might be the case of the to that way get how then to struggle its way into like making it to like the very top of that side. What's up? Only to get like captured and get put into that trap and captured kind of state at like the very top of like the expected by your might be like your plan definitely might be correct. And that way to like then bring like even go to like might be along the lines like your might be planning definitely might be correct. So definitely able to bring out like the various stops of like the experts of building domain like your person and there I'm talking about there to be like a teleportation machine as well where like I'm to bring like your eventually after like easily offering event to like I'm different like putting event to into like teleportation like machine and basically teleporting event to from the very top of the tech structure to like the basement level of like Hector Island where might be like the actual lab like the original weapon might be and like that way event to getting trying to teleport from like the very top of the tech structure to like the very underground lab of like the original weapon and person for God to be only at that point, but even though would mean like that perhaps scientific can state that like even though would be even seeing like the actual possible weapon, just like even just now that I'm the prolific language. So like among like the current theme of like product group and the going to different sort of the event so that will be first seeing like the actual weapon is first is like the scenario that I'm proliferating and so that way, according to my prediction, for the certain maybe for like the product to being able to like defeat and destroy like the JinbeSeraphim solely due to like Lilith making that as was the state of like giving too many orders to that the JinbeSeraphim X1. I thought like the JinbeSeraphim to like drop its guard and basically like not be taking any person any order at like for a reason and then we're getting digital and so that that way, like I'm looking at that point for like the weapon getting embraced and like the actual weapon getting embraced and like and I'm sitting in my frame the actual weapon might be a woman by the name Stella, definitely one for question. So definitely the actual weapon getting embraced and like that's the weapon at that point that's giving the order to like bringing that like to that chapter Lilith and bring Lilith to and send Lilith to that the open weapon. And at that point, I was going that the open weapon punishing for Lilith and putting Lilith into the trap kind of like some kind of like state. And like that full weapon that is like the punishing Lilith at that point is like in the scenario. I remember the corner brain and the credit. And that way like I'm like according to my brain and once like uh Van Pope might be like the one the person individual under like some type of like Saka right now. Definitely not permission like once like that way upon the permission one like then Pope would be also getting cancer and to into like an different kind of state by like the actual way from like upon the permission at that point I'm permission like then so being put into like an different kind of state right into side left that may so like at that point like I'm in like event so that interaction happening between like event and with the setting in like Financo and then like bonding and like a bond of friendship getting formed between like Financo and then the suppose of like elements of scenario that I'm just also talking that way into like that interaction to the setting into like eventful maybe even influencing leader to like turn against like where of actual of the version. It's also like during the purpose scenario that I'm talking about again. So those like the minimum transitions where like the actual portion of weapons might be having that absolutely no need at all of that that remaining of like her six satellite from once like the Puma like ultimate cyborg. It's like the people who remember suffering towards like extra once that the accuracy weapon get up and on like the Puma like ultimate robot with like the wings like at that point like that Virgin Babylon might be having absolutely no need of like six satellite form, might be like actual different situations that may also like certainly like destroying like the six satellite form of like the Virgin Babylon might definitely not at all have any effect on like the original weapon. Might be definitely that the different situations definitely not for ambition. Might be the reason for like the people who are member being having been given like the orders to like destroy. I think that having given the orders to like destroy all six satellite forms of like that might be according to like weapon home realistic as a because like them to like the ultimate Puma like fiber with like presence might be able to like do might be able to like do everything and even way more than everything that like all six that like forms of where from uh combined can do might be like that to do the game on through. So like to just have the to get rid of that specific forms of that the actual weapon and they need to have that the ultimate trauma that cyber with like the Winslow take care of that everything at like extra island might be along the design plan of like the villain plan of like the actual weapon might be like that if could just the limit then like eventually I'm bring like the remaining or with that athletic concept like weapons eventually finding out about this and at that point I'm trying of like the possibility of like them aligning the like the straw has to against like the Soma like ultimate form of the black living as well as like the secrets of the once they will be going up and against like weapons in that battle, which I'm probably trying to is ridiculous in like sector like between them and the Soviet group. So like the possible scenario that I'm supposed to find also certainly my data encryption right now that like each and every single one of like the six satellite forms of like the including Lilith might all be robot and not even cyber might be like that with the really so like for like it might be sharping that sharp electricity that they might consider for like the east satellite forms of like that might be not willing for might be like that get into ways that need my okay, so that's the lead my personal reimbursement right now that like weapons might have been such an extremely tricky and realistic individual that like weapons while creating while a weapon might have had just like not like weapon most likely might be like the name the line might be a woman and by creating that having like the idea of like creating like extra and like the six aesthetic form of that weapon like at that point like even though weapon could have most likely created just robot to do to be the six robot to be the six satellite forms like weapon might have wanted to not just create like just another robot but like weapon might have wanted to like create like each and so have like each and every single one of like the satellite forms of like weapons regardless of like the difference in their size of like certain for each and every single one of like the satellite forms of weapons to actually believe that they are human might be like the case depending on the thing. So like luckily even to the present I'm not different like each and every single one of like the satellite forms of weapons might be of like the firm belief and total unawareness that like it's like a robot and like it might be each and every single one of like the satellite forms might be innocently of like the belief that each and every single one of them are like exactly like human or of like the word of like the of one we might be the basic active situation of human children. There might be that aspect of awareness that might be forcefully instilled down to like each and every single one of like satellite forms of like weapons by the selfish weapons due to that weapons like selfish crazy idea something like for like weapons like personal that person might be like that special situation that limit friendly. So that limit friend like even like the satellite the weapons like satellite jobs like the food it consumes like might be inactivity might be solar powered like electricity and electric charge containing like uh, things like index created in like the state being given like the shape of like food item and basically solely to like friction block and basically that they one like your with like solar power electricity like your the robot you're getting charge and like that charge being like remotely sent from your to the remaining six satellite remaining five satellite forms of that might be what may be actually happening. So like we have different like it might be programmed in such a way for like to make mistake and like it while consuming like all the charges in the appearance of like code items like basically for like your to make that mistake and all the charge itself and that way for like your to be forced to like use like exactly like human stuff and basically so that way to have that recurring happening for like the foreign interest in the sense like six athletic forms from that where like I'm the like where the might have consciously decided might have consciously designed that each of like the six athletic forms in such a way to make mistakes while consuming food as well as like that way consuming charge and while things like charge from that your to that the remaining five athletic forms so that maybe even while passing on that charge for like each of like the athletic form of that level in terms to have like to get an off charge frequently and that way for each of like the fifth athletic forms to be forced to like use like the so that and like there like it might be just like the spelling of like the extra charge alone that might be which is definitely my preference but definitely that way while seeing visuals about like the real world humans in like the real world like humans consuming food in like the real world like all this like where it might have shows to like reflect to have like six athletic forms and if you the six athletic forms of weapons even with such extreme brilliance might have brought us by like the actual human weapons into thinking that they are exactly like human exactly like weapons and basically that way like certain weapon and exactly like the humans in like the real world but like exactly even way more superiorly brilliant like that might be along the lines of the electric athletic form of like that might be innocently previously to the firmly bringing into the person. Like they may be certainly unaware that they are robots and like they might be of flexibility of flexibility that they see in like the real world like this the humans in like the real world when each of them eat like another human flex come it might be along the lines of like the belief that exactly like how it happens to them might so the satellite forms might be happening in like the real world might be along the lines of being and belief that like the six satellite forms of evidence might be having. So like definitely and when it comes to like star rating, even that like weapons might have witness strictly strict and short videos about like starvation in like the world to the six satellite forms and basically so that way that weapon might have also put them the six satellite forms into thinking that like it's due to that that is my view into like the restriction in like the expelling and transference of charge from like one individual to another might be the reason for like that so like for that happening in like the real world might be along the lines of the suffering lack of like the false belief like the all this like brilliant robot satellite cockpit satellite forms of weapons might be having to the further and this might be out in an extremely realistic manner for like that person that question alone that opposing actual human weapons might have tricked like each of like cybernetic forms into thinking they are exactly like humans exactly like in like the real world, but a lot more related just solely for that the actual person weapons that customer satisfaction satisfactory kind of feeling might be like the actual situation but even trend. So that I'm referring eventually through like for sure definitely be through like the software through that like I'm so referring that these six athletic forms of like weapons which actually when finding out that like uh, the actual humans in the career are totally different from them and that they are no famous than that they are forward. Like I'm going to realize it's shocking realization I'm seeing like too much for like the satellite response to that and it was like change the scenario that I'm looking for the once like they were just finding out about it. It's like the scenario that I'm looking at and so different them finding that out to the score and go. And definitely initially I'm looking that creating uh, creating that absolute insecure kind of feeling within each of like the satellite forms and that absolute rate within like each of like the satellite forms like their intellect being their exceptional intellect and brilliance are being challenged would be along the lines of the like each of them the satellite forms would be at that point would be feeling on like the story would be trying to like, convince them the reality and definitely have to put that initially causing like its athletic forms to like act out after that to try and try to like attack it. So that was is like during the scenario that I'm with the point. Like I'm totally putting at that point for like most likely like frankly maybe trying to like frankly I'm totally putting the like the one that will be the I'm totally putting that each of the right way will be not they will be finding out about this will be I'm totally looking for them will be totally feeling that absolute feeling of like sadness and disturbance within them, and that absolute race towards like the actual whatever. But like I'm wondering, it will be frankly that will be feeling affected the most people that trying to do a cyber and being able to like, relate to I'm talking about not being able to like, relate to all the situations for a lot more, and basically that way all these like which are athletic forms of like who might be this and that, and even to the person might be viewed that the JinbeSeraphim as well as like the recruits that has called like totally unlike them, them as like as not being human, as being like cyborgs that basically that without them realizing that like cyborgs are more close to that human than when compared to like these robotic six athletic forms of like platform would be along the lines of the improve most likely Frankie and like for to like I'm putting it to the parallel compass like that on have that so the realization is like emotional realization injury. And I'm totally bringing into then come down to eventually it's all settling down and then come down to that acceptance of like Sam's being Robert and definitely I'm just putting like them like a crucial alliance being formed between like definitely I'm just putting like them also that absolute race once like really come to that extent, that can become more that is burning with that absolute phrase to that sorting down the actual violence for going all this to them and basically I'm totally putting physical remember the emissions of like the actual weapons like least the theory in like escaping from like Exit Island initially like the scenario that I'm looking at. And definitely from that point on I'm looking like Exit Island belongs to that six satellite forms of like weapon and like them straight away destroying like the entirety of like Exit Island and basically even changing like the name of like Exit Island and basically them the six satellite forms of like weapon like calling it putting their own name for like Exit Island creating a new Exit Island, new island, creating a new island, which that they will be creating as their own fresh right crust on that going on. After from then that is Exit Island is like the scenario that I'm going to bring about today. So that way, according to my friend, I'm preparing for like the story through like eventually defeating like basically Euro members as well as like the ultimate human like as well as like still I'm totally specifically want to mention that like for like the origin actual human weapon like totally managing to like escape from like Exile Island and yeah at that point I'm just totally trying with like through trying to help like and totally trying like to protect through buying freedom for like the six athletic for like weapons. So like in the scenario that I'm doing so like need like this like design limitations of like each of like six athletic form from greed as well as like for like five development, everyone like whether each of like side like accounts, whether it's like singing or like whether it's like system or like whether it's like create like it's using limitations like that alone like the fact that like each of these like accounts have up only doing that alone like in this and like that limitation like I'm just trying that trying to probably being like the one to like undo such a limitation and basically that way that actually find that freedom for like the six satellite form of that to be able to like do and do things as basically like without conforming to like the limitation design onto them and then goes onto them by is that given to scenarios that are the difference. So like that way I'm trying to buying that the freedom towards the end of like island like buying freedom with the satellite form of like weapons is like intelligence getting formed still the proprietary and then like changes another than sitting on the luxury. Here's the like name of friends from right now that I'm sitting on the leaf of like the satellite form of like weapons and might be totally aware of like one member like event code like most likely disguising as like Shaka and definitely definitely I'm so differing so that at present like the six athletic form might be at present might be putting on that app which they get in in front of that most likely around the security and take the face as shut up like I'm trying like the security and then the athletic forms of like from like capturing Shaka and most likely putting Shaka into that any kind of state and sending Shaka, teleporting Shaka off towards like that, deposit weapons like underground lab, reflecting the scenarios that I'm doing over there. Yes, so like the main information right now, either for like Shaka most likely got defeated and put into like any kind of state by event and that the Shaka that's like currently talking to the Prophet to possibly be event code in the kind of type of Shaka is like one possible the one possible dynamic is for like event code might be elected type of Shaka but might have even made it to like the Open Shaka might be that day. So like it might be that the Open Shaka that might be talking to that person might be talking to that is correct. So but at the same time, like a difference might be like the original actual Shaka weapon one might be like the only robot that might have been able to like maybe go a bit beyond its like limitations set by during its design by welcome into that Shaka alone maybe being able to like think of like the future possibility of like uh, including weapon one Shaka as well as like the remaining five athletic forms of like weapon. The actual origin weapons replacing destroying all of them and replacing all of them just like weapons like futuristic robotic creation might be around the lines of like that fear uh, and like feeling of like a strong possibility of such an eventual of scenario might have been formed within like Tata alone might see that the actual different situations like the opposite element for it and maybe friend and also that my cooking area question right now is for like actual futuristic 500 years ahead futuristic technology processing lab ahead island actually possibly being right underneath like the Ekad Island on the suffer looking from like the past like so that the Ekad Island of the future might be actually like the spring might be actually right underneath below the sea level like covered by that exact same kind of like uh bubble kind of like thing that shields and keep like the fish that like floating and surrounding like the fisherman island that I think that basically weapons might have created like a similar kind of like a bubble like thing. The weapon might have invented the same technology and might have perfect like created like an entirety of like a futuristic accepted time years ahead futuristic ahead island stealthy beneath like the sea level exactly below like the surface island and like definitely might have floated with like this like bubble like thing might be like that could be situation that I'm spring. So like definitely I'm spring maybe it being from that it might be from that futuristic Eckert Island that like the giant robot as well as like the giant dragon that fight at like the Eckert Island on like the surface like them being shifted from holograms into actual robots might be all happening through this like from beneath like the surface from like the very top of like the stealthy underground uh, exit island on like the sea level. From like the very top of like that city, exit island in that beneath like the sea level might be from the very top of that that the actual giant giant robot as well as like the giant robotic dragon might be often system or like the surface and fighting and like that between the all of that and the robot might be happening. Especially might be like that especially my brain which is so that according to my personal theory, I'm referring to the actual futuristic of the years ahead, futuristic ahead identity exactly right there beneath like with sea level, beneath like the surface ahead island and basically like the surface ahead island might be only just 100 years alone ahead of that futuristic technology might be only like everything on like the surface ahead island like all the robots and all the technology used in like the surface ahead island might be only just 100 years ahead of like futuristic technology might be like activity of like the situation of new so that definitely my experience for the information about different like action island might be consciously designed in such a way by weapons solely to that trick any intruders showing up to that action island to that totally to assume that like the surface action island is like the 400 years ahead of the future technology containing like action island so that like during the intrusion to like surface action island like the actual origin where it comes from that the underwater X island would be easily able to like destroy. So that our systems will be able to like destroy all of that the plans of any intruder using that 400 years ahead of like technology from that passing it to that the technology to like the surface only when near us only when there's like an enemy in position to like quickly and easily take them out. Might be along the lines of the one with such an intent like I'm considering that weapon, the hosting weapon might have designed like acted iron in such a way might be that activity of consideration like a possibility that I'm considering I'm not saying. Yes, so like the main I don't really understand right now is that like it might have been that the idea and the concept of like freedom that 900 years back for of like the 900 years back civilization that might be what like at present like Shaka might be talking about as like being so that the civilization 900 years back being so extremely advanced such a limited things like this for to experience like unlimited like supply of like all sorts of wide varieties of food as well as like clothes like all sorts of like all different kinds of like clothes like them being able to wear any kind of clothes they want as well as like them being able to like adjust like the AC and temperatures of like the island and everything like this all that like the freedom to have access to all that might have been like what might have been present like in like the civilization 900 years back because like 900 years back like it might have been like a civilization that might have lived in like the world of countries that might have lived in that absolute complete harmony and cooperation and without any fights between them. Like and between there might among those civilizations there might have been a great number of humans possibly with like having their powers who might have choose like their natural powers to for like to have fun as well as like for like the betterment of each other to help each other out and basically even when like the temperature were like any issues with like temperature or like climate uh, like at that point like their producers might work together as like a team with that absolute teamwork like might be using their unique their powers would be all working together to like adjust to properly adjust and like change the temperature and climate and everything like basically like among like this civilization back then like there might have been great number of those users like not being selfish on about like their resource powers but like seeing those powers as basically powers to like basically to use for like the betterment of like each other and to like help each other out to create like that absolute that golden civilizations might be along and to have fun and everything that we even entertainment and everything exactly like how like the toy stores had also of like entertainment and fun things at like Action Island like I'm saying like the fun and entertainment mind of the that might be all might it might have been done through like all these like unique powers of like that might have been like the limits without any restrictions of uh, restrictions or like serving of like the freedom like they feel a world full of absolute freedom without any dislike between or like selfishness between each other might have been like the advanced way of like the civilized of like thinking of like the an idea and concept of like freedom of like the civilization 9 years back before during like the void century before like immense rule which might have happened exactly 800 years back might have been like the case certainly and it might be such a metaphor way that I'm so different right now right now, Shaka might be trying to, might be telling to like Friday about, it's definitely about like the advanced civilizations like man is that is certainly my personal impression. So that definitely my personal impression right now is that like 900 years back, like there might have been the civilizations back then might have had like absolutely no prejudice or like just like between each other regardless of whether like they live were like humans or like fishermen or like Donarians or like Jan or anything like they might have regardless of like the tribe like whether it was like the Porosome tribe or like the Porosity tribe like or might have existed like even 900 years back certainly not for anything yet like they might have been all living in that absolute perfect harmony might have been like that was the situation that we might have so like it might have so that it might have been Timur and Timur alone that might have created like this like that dispute between each of like the tribes as well as like the dislikes between like the tribes and like the fight between like the tribes all began and that might have been all due to like the root cause which might have been in respectively necessary. So definitely that way like it might have been like the result of like one of like the war that like looking right now and even seeing like this like uh warrior like I'm not warrior like basically at like effort island like and bring that won't might definitely not all these are robots, but like that might have been like an armored warrior, like who might have been taken out to like one of like from like an armored giant warrior from like Elba, who might have taken part in that war that might have taken place in like the present location of that hidden in like way back ancient of years back. Might have been like the case definitely I'm referring. So like definitely I'm referring that that armored that warrior might definitely not be a robot, but might within it might there might be definitely the skill set of like a giant. It's definitely might preferring the giant something like that armored warrior has like own like definitely I'm referring like that armored warrior might have been definitely from like the Kurosumi planet or with my preference. It's definitely not referring.